One of my favorite projects was when I led a product design enhancement project for Charter Communications Tech mobile platform. It was for their residential cable installation techs. I loved the team I worked with. We interacted so well. We got along in terms of being like of the same mind so seamlessly, and it was just great. We were like the melody of a beautiful song. I absolutely loved it. And of course, that produced a fantastic final output. The ask for this particular work was about finding a way to improve the usability of the technician's service tool. There were a lot of issues with it at the time, and some of them hadn't been defined yet. Some of them were based on, user complaints, and some were actually really affecting their productivity. So I had to start by doing more to understand the issue, and thankfully, there were some really smart people on that team who had already been tackling the issue, and they'd set up a special group of technicians who had been with the company for a while and who were able to articulate problems well. So, they only made up probably 0.2% of the technicians in the particular region that we were using as a test area, but that was still quite a few people, and we were able to reach out to them and do group studies with them, and they participated in focus groups both live and remotely via internet, and so they were able to help us really label and identify usability issues so we could optimize the workflow and redesign the interface in a way that made the workflows easier to follow and help them be more efficient at their jobs. My proximity to being able to contact them whenever we wanted to was really a big staple of our success. It was that research driven design that enabled me to deliver an impactful solution. And for them, it was just a great way to help make their jobs better because about 30% of their daily tasks had more to do with admin than physical installations at a minimum. So every workflow improvement that I implemented literally translated into better service delivery and customer satisfaction for the techs. So I took the lead in assembling a cross-functional team that included designers, developers, and interacted heavily in the beginning with my product owner, who was a fantastic leader, and other key stakeholders who had been, I want to say, watching the development of this tool. It had been in existence for, I actually have no idea how long, at least 7 years that they'd been using this particular tool at the very least. And the stakeholders were just, they were a super hands-on group of people who, I think many of them were a part of the initial build, not necessarily from an engineering standpoint, but that they had input into how the design was first put together. And so when they were hearing that there were issues with it, I think that maybe that's kind of why they leaned in so heavily into making sure that whatever solutions were put in place, not only did they understand them, but that they were going to be long-term solutions and that there was not going to be any redundancy in someone new, me coming in and kind of repeating things that they had done, nearly a decade ago. And thankfully, though, none of that happened because the primary issue wasn't that the first build of the app was bad. It was just that times had continued to go. And the capabilities in terms of programming had gotten better. The expectations in terms of what an app like this, like an internal app, what it could do, had simply expanded. And we just needed to build a more supportive tool that caught up with the times. As it was, the techs were just having kind of slowed down installation trips, and the screens had a lot of clutter on them or missing elements that didn't quite function as needed, and the workflow was a bit confusing. And so it wasn't designed at a time when Figma was even existing. Figma wasn't even in existence yet when this thing was made. So it really just needed attention and the right tools so it could become the awesome great app that I made it into. But seriously, through the research, like I said, with the team that we had, and then also the hands-on approach of leadership on this, we were able to increase efficiency by 15% and nearly entirely erase the daily frustrations that these techs were having to deal with. And it was a labor heavy project. We had to review and redesign over 120 screens. And there was no design system in place when this was built initially. So every move was a manual check. And the product owner and those stakeholders wanted to be hands on every step of the way. So I ended up building a commentable review system, or kind of a document I ended up building it in PowerPoint so that they could access it, but we showed every current state and this commentable file in PowerPoint where they could see what was currently live in production, the comments from the technicians that we've gotten from the research, and then a suggested redesign layout for each screen. And it actually worked out pretty well. Let me show you a bit about how I kind of went through the process of working with the team to get this done. So this is who we had on the team, and I actually had to present this to them to explain what we were doing and how we were going to actually get this done. And that was unexpected when I got there, that I would be the one kind of pitching the action plan. But thankfully, I actually love presenting, and it was totally fine. It went really great actually, because I love doing I love communication. And one of the things that I really needed was information on what they had been dealing with and how things had been going. In terms of, like, surely they had tried to make some changes before today. When I was there with them, they'd, done their best along the way, and things escalated to a point where they needed someone to come in and really handle it in the way that I did. And so getting a chance to talk with them, these are the notes from some of the times that we talked before I started my screen by screen review system with them, just so that I could get a good idea of what they had already discussed. Putting the needs in front of them and myself at the same time like this really made it easy to hone in on the design goals and to figure out what needed to be done after those research findings came in, and after the surveys, after the site visits, all of pulling all of that together, and then getting on the same page about, well, there's some redundancy in the app. And so, right now it looks like this, but in a different screen, this in a different flow, this exact same screen would have a different layout. And so we needed to clean things up and make it more consistent along the way. There were no change logs. It was a huge issue. There was no announcement when a technician would log in and there was something new that had been added. So I made this system so that each release, and really at that time, it's pretty much every week that they open it, there was something brand new in there, and we outlined, what had been changed, and even tried to standardize the way that we helped them adopt those changes. One of the other things that had been a complaint of the technicians since the adoption of this tool is that here on the left, you'll see this was the before. The instead of having a picture of the, hang on, let me zoom in a little. There we go. Instead of being able to see the piece of equipment that they were needing for that particular job, there was like a placeholder picture in every single one of them. And so imagine, for years having this truck that you've got all these different things in the back, and everyone's system and setup is not the same. And so they genuinely would need a different device at different locations, particularly if they were going to like an apartment building. It would have a whole different setup than a single family housing neighborhood would have. So this was something that you can really kind of clearly see what the value of going from the before to the after really was. And on the left here, there's these are screenshots from one of the walkthroughs. Like we had a tech go on and show us how he was using everything, or how he was doing the workflow, and how he or activated a device when he took it out of his inventory in the truck, and it was just really, it's just outdated. And so you can see here on the right side my proposed, before we did it, my proposed redesign to that process. And it was things like this and other ideas that I had that were all just really, really, it was just necessary, but it was super well received by the stakeholders, and because they were just, they were genuinely interested in the experience that the techs were having with this tool. There is a more guided step-by-step view of this case study in my case study web page. Let's see, let me show you. If you would like to go through this in more detail, you can find it here. It's the usability testing case. So feel free to log in and take a look at it. And one of the things that I'd really like to communicate is just how much it was just about being useful. Making sure that everything that we could fix and improve for them, we did. And and the outcomes were easily documented, or easily visible and documented, and the praise that we got actually in writing back from the technicians, both those who were on our review team and those who were not, was just phenomenal. But in a quick summary, we reduced their on the job time by 15%. Those screens were cleaner, the workflows were faster, everything made more sense, there were less distractions, and there were not different screens, different layouts for the same tasks, which helped them to activate their muscle memory and get faster on their own as well. And there was, at the time, there was no accessibility established in the design, so I worked with our UI designer to create clear, there we go, to create clear standards for that, and also to put them into design system component format in Figma so that the build could go faster. Oh, and that was one of the things I forgot to mention actually. We were, because of the nature of this tool, it was being used every single day. We were having to build this while it was live. So we had to go very quickly and very strategically and intentionally every step of the way. And it worked. It worked great. I've been lucky to work with some really smart people, smart leaders, and highly capable staff. And that's really what made this a success story. When it comes to leading, it's important to me that the people who are working as a part of my team, the team I'm leading, that they stay on task because of respect, not because of fear of job loss. And this is one of those times when I really saw the benefits of that, because it was a lot of feeling around in the dark in the beginning. And it's important that my team is not afraid to ask me stuff, and that they're not afraid to say, we tried to talk to someone and it didn't work out, we need help. And that really that really makes a huge difference. And you can't always tell if your team members individually are the type of people who you can count on for that type of self leadership. It requires having instincts and an initial level of trust in order to see just how much each person can do beyond the general work. And of course, even after the design is complete, the work required is nowhere near done. And sometimes in a design production environment, there are a ton of little things that need to be taken care of. And as me being a person who loves organization and being successful, I always find it unnecessary to leave anything to chance. And in this team, pull something up for you here. I not for this particular project, but afterward, we were doing work that was more I guess kind of repetitive, in that every little feature required a lot of design system maintenance. And so I decided to have one of my product designers build out a solution that worked on every single feature update. And we even ended up using it for other design teams. So, like, this is one of our Jira tickets in the design format in Figma. And I'm going down to show this checklist that I put together that really made it so nothing got skipped. So, for example, after one screen is done, even if we only made one, let's just say added a drop down on an existing form feature. All of this stuff still needed to be done after. There's peer reviews, there's development specs that need to be written, there's uploading into the tool that the engineers are going to get the CSS from. There's just so much stuff to do. And, if you skip a couple of these things, or even one, it becomes an issue. And so, I made this system where each designer make their could add this to the work that they did, so that as you go along, you can just mark that thing as done and go on to the next one and make sure that nothing got skipped. My product designer who worked with me on this had joined the company before I did, and so she did just a really great job and had this idea to separate them based on the tool that you use for the step. And I think that was just an excellent implementation to add to this. And it's one of the examples of how I really love working with people who trust me enough to trust themselves and speak up and help out. And having this as a part of our workflow that literally defined our workflow was just an absolutely priceless addition to the work I did specifically with the team. So, I hope that that gives you an idea of how I work as a leader and also a little bit of insight into how I think as a product designer. There is lots more to come in the future as well as in the now, and hopefully, you'll get to be a part of that with me.